Welcome to the 301 Podcast, the interview podcast for the hottest up-and-coming entrepreneurs, artists, and creators. Real, authentic, and inspiring. And here is your host, Marcus Engel. Let's get it started in 301.
Welcome back to the 301 Podcast, and welcome back to a new fantastic episode with a really fantastic guest. And today we talk to Ilya Kneppelhout. Ilya is an entrepreneur, creative, almost a tennis professional. And I'm really excited to talk with him today about his entrepreneurial journey, his viral hit that we will come to, and much, much more. Ilya, welcome to the 301 Podcast.
Thank you. Super excited to be here.
Ilya, if I would have chosen one word to describe you in my preparations, what do you think which word I would have chosen?
Maybe ambitious?
I chose exactly this. I wrote down ambitious and overachiever, so this is not staged.
Yeah, nice.
But this is really insane because I think I've never met another guest that I prepared for that had so many entries on LinkedIn on his jobs. Like, I think there's nothing that you haven't done. Like, you had like student jobs, you were almost a former tennis professional, so you experienced quite a lot already.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I was definitely during my high school years an overachiever, always playing tennis and trying to get good grades in school. And I think I've kind of tried to expand on that during my later years in college. Yes, and I just like to do a lot of different things and experience different stuff. So that's why.
That's super nice. I also think that a very large part of your life you spent on the tennis court.
Yeah.
You started playing tennis with 8, I think.
Yeah, exactly. You did your research.
Yeah, I did my research. And I think you were one of the most talented players in the Netherlands. Like, you were scratching on the top sports.
Yeah.
How was this experience, like basically dedicating your time and a lot of time of your life on the court?
Yeah. So I started actually when I was 7, and I think when I was 8 was the first time when I was scouted by the National Tennis Federation. I must say my highest one was number 7 in the Netherlands, so I was never like top. But yeah, it was my life, and I did everything for it, and I lived for a dream, and that was to become a professional tennis player. And I left everything for it. If I could, I would have spent 8 hours per day on the tennis court. And I absolutely loved it. I mean, I was also playing with friends, right? So it was also a social activity for me. And I could really just let go of everything on the court and work towards a higher goal.
Super sick. And were you more like talented, or was it more
no
like hard work?
Yeah, it was definitely hard work. I was definitely less talented than other players, but my motivation was never in question. And I definitely worked hard, and Rafa Nadal was my big idol, and okay. I mean, he's very talented, but he's also really a hard worker and a grinder, and I think that's also for me the same thing.
Where does this come from? Like this urge to grind, to hustle, to keep going?
I don't know. I think I mean, my parents, especially my mom, they are hard workers, but it's something in me that's always been there since a young age. That's where it's from.
Are they entrepreneurs themselves, or?
They used to be. They're not like big serial entrepreneurs, but my mom's a translator, so she freelances also in Dutch to English, English to Dutch translations. And my dad used to own a shop in the Negen Straatjes in Amsterdam. So there's something in there, but I didn't grow up seeing them as entrepreneurs.
Okay. Yeah, because I think I see that quite a lot, like especially in the podcast. I think we record now over 80 episodes, that a lot of times when people are very ambitious, very driven, is because it's either that or the total difference. Like, do you believe in nature versus nurture? Like, do you believe in that kind of it really depends how you grow up, or do you think it always depends also a little bit on the person itself?
I think nurture is a lot and the most, to be honest. I've met a lot of people from around the world who behave so differently because of the way they were brought up. And I think, of course, parents pass on certain genes to their kids, but I think most of it is nurture, the mindset.
I agree, in my youth, I also played in like a solid leagues football in Germany.
Nice.
And I also remember a lot of times those days and weekends and training camps and everything that you drove 3 or 4 hours at 5 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday to some game,
Yeah.
played 1.5 hours and drove home 3 or 4 hours again.
Yeah, crying if you
Yeah,
lost.
exactly. Which is absolutely insane. I think that sacrifice that you have to do as a young person instead of like maybe going out and maybe trying your first alcohol and those kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I realized also myself, like quite early, I think that I'm probably not going to make it to the top. I had players that play now in Bundesliga, and I've played against many people that made it.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it was always clear, like they were so much better. Like they were so much like more agile. They were so much more technical. And for me, it was fine. Like I realized, okay, this is not my journey. How was this for you?
Yeah.
Or was there a moment that you said like, okay, I think this guy is...
Yeah, so I don't remember a clear moment when I realized, okay, I'm not good enough. I think it came gradually when I was trying to compete on an international tour as well, and I just wasn't winning much. So I think it came gradually, and also I asked my parents afterwards, like, do you remember how that went? And they said, well, at one point, they kind of pushed me towards, okay, maybe it's good to go to university instead of going all in on tennis. So yeah, it went step by step for me to realize, okay, maybe the professional tour is not for me, but there were many opportunities to still make the most out of my tennis career, like going to the United States, which I then did when I was 18. Yeah.
And after that time, I think that was the time where you really dove into entrepreneurship and into several challenges and jobs and stuff like this. And you still worked as a tennis coach, right, at the time in the US?
Exactly.
Like basically you dove into the entrepreneurship like challenge. Basically it started a little bit when you went to the US, right?
Yeah, that's when I really got that energy from New York City, where in the US they really encourage people to do their own thing and to aim big, whereas in the Netherlands they try to keep people small. And if you're doing something or believing in yourself, you're often kind of looked upon weirdly, like, do you really think you're going to make that? Yeah. So for me, it was a perfect spot to kind of grow as an entrepreneur. Yeah.
I think there's this saying, right? Normaal is gek genoeg or something.
Ja,
like
doe maar normaal, dan ben je gek genoeg.
Yeah. And I think this is really like, I mean, also I live here since quite a while or something. And I do think there are, here people are entrepreneurial and everything, and it gets also a little bit more open. But sometimes I can still really feel this, like that they're like, oh, doe normaal.
Definitely.
It's really
fun.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, I can give a perfect example. I mean, right now we did pretty well on Instagram when we grew. And already before that, we told each other we want to go worldwide with this. And I've told a couple of friends and they're like, oh, okay, well, that's ambitious. Whereas I think in the States, they would have gone like,
yeah, of
damn
course,
guy,
man, yeah.
That's awesome. Go for it. You got it. Yeah. It's a difference in mentality.
One of the things that I read during my preparation was you said, during my work, I don't know anymore where that was. I worked an average of 10 hours, 6 days a week for a duration of 4 months.
Yeah.
And like, how was your mindset in this time? Like, was it really this kind of like grinding culture? I have to kind of like...
Yeah. So I worked as a tennis coach during most of my summers when I studied in the States at a country club in Connecticut. And that was definitely 3.5 months. And the goal was just to make a lot of money, which is really against everything I do now. But it was an amazing opportunity for me to do that, a financial opportunity. And in a setting I would otherwise never experience. So that was 6 days a week, most of the years, except the last one, which was the COVID summer, when basically the only thing people were allowed to do was playing tennis. So I was working 6 days a week on my club, and then half a day on the 7th day for myself. And I had 1 day off in those entire summer. And it was really a grinding culture. I went there and I was like, okay, I'm just going to go for it. But what helped is that my best friends there all were on the same boat. So they were all grinding. And then during the nights and on the weekends, for one night, we would be able to see each other. So I wasn't missing out on any social activities like it would be here in Amsterdam.
We're going to talk about what you're doing now and how you're basically your mindset now to there in a bit. But when was that switch that you had? Like, I think there was some sort of like, also in terms of when you go through your career track and everything, like it almost seems like there was this switch that kind of like switched on or maybe off, that changed a little bit something in Ilya, that he's like, okay, I'm not maybe this hustler anymore. I think you still are, but in a different way.
I think it has always been in me that I want to do things differently than a regular. And that has only grown especially since my Masters of Entrepreneurship here in Amsterdam, when I got to meet a lot of cool entrepreneurs that showed me you can do differently than a 9-to-5 job. And they were the ones who really inspired me. And the only podcast I ever listened to was by Guy Raz, How I Built This. So that when I started realizing like, okay, I love being an entrepreneur. I love to create stuff that wasn't there. I want to grow things. So that also went gradually. It wasn't one specific moment.
When you came back, I think you founded your first real startup, I think. It was like a dark kitchen concept.
Yeah.
Can you tell us something about this?
Yeah, so I had that in mind for a while to bring a borrelplanken, like tapas platters, to people's homes because it wasn't there yet. And I thought it would be fun also to connect people. Afterwards, when I'm looking back at it, I'm like, whoa, that was just so work intensive.
Yeah.
And we did it for a couple months with a friend of mine, and we had a blast. But we were literally taking orders. We were preparing the platters. I was biking around Amsterdam, sweating my ass off, taking orders on the phone and delivering the food. And it was just so much. And this was at a time also when I was doing my master's at the same time, my thesis. I was working and I was doing an internship for Moju. So it was all at the same time. And we told each other, this can't go on anymore. And then we quit. But yeah, I'm really happy I did that because you learn from everything you do.
Yeah.
And although this failed, I see it as a real fun time and an experience or an opportunity to learn.
If you would relaunch this project again, do you think you would be more successful now?
Definitely. Yeah. I would do very differently. I would focus on businesses instead of on just people like you and me. We got some business orders, which is just so much easier. And I would earlier get like a young person on board to make all the tapas platters for us. Yeah.
You said just that you basically joined Mojo as an intern. I think you worked your way up as a head of international expansion.
Yeah.
And I saw that somewhere there was like a LinkedIn post where you said like, okay, I quit everything. I'm going to do a break for a couple of months.
Yeah.
What happened in that break? What did you do?
Yeah, so
and
I
why
took
did
a break.
You do a break first of all?
Yeah, good question. It was a process also to get to that point to leave behind a startup or scale up that has a very special place in my heart. But I chose to do it because after leading the international expansion into Germany and France, I got into a role of online marketing, and it was more like maintaining the business rather than growing it and starting up new things. That's when I realized this is not for me, and I want to be more involved with people. I want my job to be, having contact and social contact with people around me and impact lives of people rather than selling a product. And, I've always been going from one thing into the other, never really standing still with, okay, what do I want? Where do I want to go? What kind of career suits me? So that's when I decided, okay, I'm going to take a break to look ahead. So I did a lot of different stuff. I went back to tennis coaching because I had to make a living in the end. I have a little scrappy boat in Amsterdam, which I took some American tourists on. One of them fell in the water when she tried to get on. And I did a lot of reflection exercises and mainly talked to a lot of people. So I drank a lot of coffees with people I found inspiring to really get to understand, okay, what do you do? How did you accomplish where you are? And kind of see, okay, that might be something for me or not at all. Yeah, it was very diverse. Yeah.
And what was your main outcome then when you kind of like, did you have like a big revelation?
I think it was more of a confirmation that I want to work with people and that I need to be in contact with people during my job rather than just sitting behind a computer. And it was also confirmation that you can live differently than just a 9-to-5 and that's easier than you think. So after that, I took on another freelance role for 2 days with also some time to work as a tennis coach still, which gave me enough money to just get on a monthly basis, but which gave me a lot of time and space to develop new ideas and work on my business. Had Lace Weekend which is now slowly transferring into the offline club.
Yeah, I want to talk about the last weekend because I think in this transitional period of I'm maybe leaving the hustle culture a little bit behind. I want to do something with people, but still want to do something entrepreneurial. The outcome was basically last weekend. Can you tell us what it is and how you got this idea basically to get started?
Yeah. So as I said, during the period that I started my first business, the dark kitchen concept, I was in a very busy time and I kind of overworked myself. And I got 2 panic attacks for the first time in my life. I didn't even know what they were. They weren't that bad, but they definitely were a wake-up call. Like, okay, I need to better take care of myself and also take moments to rest without anything going on. So just to stare and kind of build that into my daily schedule. And then one of my colleagues at Moju, who's now also my co-founder at the Offline Club and at Lace Weekend, he was inspired by Bill Gates to go offline into a house in nature for 3 days or 4 days, just by himself, surrounded by books. So he left his phone behind. He went with his books and some paper to write. And I thought, holy shit, that's such a cool experiment. I want to do that too. And so I did. And I got so much out of that unplugging and just being by myself and taking time to slow down and switch off. A lot of creativity, a lot of rest, less anxiety. And I thought more people need to experience this. And that's where Head Lace Weekend came from. So the offline retreat that we organize in nature. And that also now led to the offline club.
Super.
Yeah,
For
just 3 days offline.
Yeah.
And that basically changed my life.
Yeah, for all the non-Dutch people, Lace Weekend means reading weekend.
The
basically.
reading weekend, yeah. Or like a think weekend, yeah.
That's amazing. So you really went basically through like a personal journey, finding a problem for yourself and thinking, oh, there must be much more people that basically need to have probably the same problem or need to experience that.
Exactly. And afterwards, we, of course, talked to a lot of people. And it was always in my social surroundings that I could feel and hear people were trying to get off their phones more. And we live in a burnout society. And then I went through these offline days. And that's when I thought, okay, yeah, more people probably need this. We did some research, but people didn't want to go by themselves. And that's how we thought, okay, well, then we'll do Head Lace Weekend. And we never call it a retreat because we don't want to be spiritual. We want to be accessible and young and fun. And that's how that started. Yeah.
And I think also normal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I think that a lot of times, I fully agree with you that, for example, I think that much more people should do yoga, much more people should do meditations, much more people should journal. Yeah. But I think because it always has this kind of like spiritual touch, that is not like, I think that, for example, like Apple is doing a good job now with their Apple journal, that it's like another app. It's like a tech thing. You can just journal. And you don't have to be spiritual about it. Like you can, like they even say like, hey, you've done this and this, don't you want to reflect about it or something? Yeah. So of course, again, time on the phone, and I understand probably it's not the best way to do it. Yeah. But in the end, still, like it becomes more normal, right? Yeah. And also like with offline, like time or like Lace Weekend or those kind of stuff is, if it becomes more normal and becomes more cool and not so I'm not saying it's spiritual is bad or something, but I just know that many people shy away from it because I don't need that.
Exactly. And that's exactly the people we want to reach. So anyone is welcome, but a retreat usually scares off a lot of people. I myself also would probably never go to like a regular retreat with yoga and meditation. I do meditate sometimes, but I'm not into it. And we don't want to be that. And we really try to be young and hip in our marketing to make it easily accessible, that people go like, oh, those guys, they do something fun. And yeah, I kind of feel like they're normal like me. I'm not spiritual, but I do realize I'm working too much, or that I never have the time to read a book, even though I want to read so much. So yeah, maybe that's something for me.
Yeah. And basically you you started this adventure, you started that journey. I think you had a couple of weekends organized already.
We've had 4 weekends organized already, and we've got 6 coming up this year.
And then you started posting on Instagram, and what happened then? Because I think still an amazing journey, and it just happened last week, so it's really cool.
Well, of course, we have a separate page for Het Leesweekend. And what we really liked is that Het Leesweekend is really 3 days completely off-grid. However, people found it hard to then implement the offline habits also in their daily life. And it's quite a lot of money. But we want to reach the masses because we think a lot of people need this, and we want to make it available to as many people as possible, also when you have less income. So that's when we thought, okay, maybe we should have like a step-in model as a marketing tool for Het Leesweekend, which is the offline club, which are offline digital detox hangouts in cool cafes in Amsterdam, to make it very easy for people to implement a daily routine or weekly routine of being offline for a couple hours and taking the time to switch off and let your creativity flow. So we made the new Instagram page, and we had 150 followers 2 weeks ago, just friends and people who already followed Het Leesweekend, which is, we had like 2,000 followers there, not even. And then I posted a reel just because we had one event coming up to promote that. And this was maybe the 4th reel I made in my whole life. And this one reel got like a lot of views, 100,000, 200,000, up to like 500,000, even though I was already like joking to my friends at 5,000 views, like we're going viral, like this is more views than ever at 5,000. And then I posted a second reel, which now has, I think, more than 11 million views.
Crazy.
Yeah, so it's absolutely insane what's happening right now, and also ironic how the offline club is going viral online.
Yeah, it's insane. Like, I think, we talked quickly before the podcast as well. I think I've not seen like this virality like in such a crazy extent with this kind of video. So I think there's so much potential, and I think there's such a big need of people actually wanting to do this, but like it's more difficult. I see that a lot of podcasters, when you listen to podcasts, they buy themselves now burner phones, and for example they only take it then to to a coffee or something, if they say I don't have to navigate anywhere, or I don't have to be, I only want to be reachable if something happens or something like this. So they use like those burner phones and stuff like this. And I think that it is true, like if you see the moment someone stands up from a table and goes to a toilet or to smoke or something, the other person automatically always takes the phone out. It's really, really crazy. And I'm guilty myself.
Yeah, me too. It's a habit.
Yeah.
And we're not for a fully offline lifestyle, right? We aim to inspire an offline lifestyle for people to do it more often, and mainly to become conscious of it, of your own behavior and your relationship to your screens. And we aim to inspire people to go offline on a more frequent basis while having a good relationship with your digital life instead of going completely offline.
Yeah, and I think that's also smart. Like a former podcast guest, Jörn Richter, he founded Unplug. It's a small NFC tag that you can basically, as a physical barrier, program with an app that you cannot access certain things without touching the phone with the NFC tag, right? That you think like, am I really this addicted? Like, do I really need to open Instagram right now or YouTube or something like this?
It's super small changes that can make a huge difference. I know some organizations that are trying to kind of help kids and people to become less addicted to phones. They campaign against certain features Instagram and TikTok have on their reels, where, for example, autoplay is being turned off. So you actually have to press to play it because they've done research, and apparently that's going to make a huge difference. Because just that one tap is going to have you be less likely to actually watch the reel. But for myself too, I've just started like half a year ago to leave my phone out of my bedroom because I had my alarm on my phone and I woke up with it every morning. and I don't have socials on my phone. I only download them when I have to post something for the offline club. But that made such a huge difference. And now I have more time to read. I sleep better. I have the most amazing mornings. And sometimes I even forget in the mornings that I want to be on my phone. So it's just that small 20 euros of buying a regular alarm clock, which has really made my life a lot more enjoyable.
So I'm really curious actually about this whole development in the future, because of course, like now with like the Apple Vision Pro and all this kind of stuff, you know, it's just like quite the opposite, I think, direction that you take. I find it very refreshing, to be honest, that like there's innovative, and in the end it's not even innovative, like, you know what I mean? Like in the end it's a very old concept that you're reintroducing, you know. It's innovative in a way that how you do it and everything is super cool, but it's not innovative in a way that you say, oh, this is a new thing. It's more like, let's bring back the old thing, right?
Yeah, let's bring it back, but also let's try to blend it in the current way of living that we have, to incorporate that offline life. Because yes, people say now, why do you need this? Why do people need the offline club? Why do people need offline retreats? It's pathetic, but we shouldn't forget that all these social apps and phones are made to keep your attention away. They're one of the only products who are actually made for them to get your attention rather than you consciously choosing to use the product. So we can't blame ourselves too much. And I think it is what's needed, these kind of initiatives like the offline club, and there's a bunch out there that try to accomplish the same, to help people with that and help them become less addictive to their phones and live more in real life. To find more true connection with themselves and others. Or you take roads that are not the fastest way, which makes you explore new areas of town. I
always do that when I go to work, because if it's always the same way, I always like, I think I read like it was a book or a podcast, I'm not sure anymore, and it was about basically autopilot, that the brain is so powerful that it basically tries to keep you always in energy saving mode, because it's the most exhaustive engine that you have in your body. So it always tries to basically cool it down and say, okay, you don't have to do anything, I already know what's going to happen. So you use the same like structure of like how you stand up, if you make yourself a coffee first, or you brush your teeth first, or whatever. It's normally quite a crazy routine. And also like the way you for example, like try yourself after the shower, or the way you like, you have this routine and you always do the same thing, because your brain is already like, don't worry, I already know what you want to do. And I really try sometimes consciously to break those kind of patterns and kind of autopilot mode, that you think like, I don't have to drive always here. It's like 30 seconds longer, but then you find maybe like a different graph and stuff.
But that's the same way with phone usage, right? It's like we're so used to taking out our phone when we go take a shit, for example. Or the first time I did the offline reading weekend for myself, I realized that I went on a walk, and as I walked into the apartment, I was grabbing my phone, even though I had no phone. So it's these routines also in a digital life that you have to get out if you want to change it, and it takes time.
I recently started vlogging like the week, basically, so what I encounter. And it's so funny that like the moment you start filming things, like how much more consciously you try to also experience things, right? And this pushes you sometimes so much of like, okay, now I need some B-roll that I can put between this journey that I'm here and in my destination. So like you're driving around like, okay, so this is a cool gracht. Oh yeah, that's nice. Oh, there's a boat. Oh, there's this, you know? So then you walk basically through like a city, like so much more like consciously, like, oh, let me look. My company's got 301 studios, the podcast got 301 podcast. So always look for like 301 somewhere in the city and stuff like this. And it's so much fun, like doing this, you know, that you so much more experience basically life, and that you're really participating and not only bystanding.
Yeah, that's it. I think, well, you might have it with vlogging, and I have that with living offline. I think what you just said is you experience life so much more, me at least, and I know for others it's the same, when you're off your phone and when it's not even with you, because it's actually been scientifically proven that when your phone is in the same room, even though it's shut off, you experience stress because of it. So you have to put it in another room outside of the walls that you're in and turn it off for you not to experience subconscious stress. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Where are you gonna take the Lace Weekend or the offline club?
Yeah. It's the offline club now.
Yeah, the offline club. Let's brand it like
The
this.
offline
Wait,
club, and then we'll have the offline retreats and the offline everything, we hope, in the future. But let's start with the offline club, is that we want to take it internationally. So we just registered our brand name, logo, everything, our concept. And we've got so many messages from all over the world already. Like, hey, can I set this up in Mumbai, New York City, London, Berlin, literally just from across the world, even the Philippines and Brazil. It was quite overwhelming. And yeah, that's our ambition to have, we actually made a goal last week, to have 100 million people experience an offline event by the offline club. And we hope to create a community of people, because we're not only about being offline, but we're also about fostering connections that are authentic. And I love being around people, and especially people who kind of live for the same thing. So that's also a goal, to create a close-knit community of different communities around the world that hope to live a bit more consciously. Yeah.
Super nice, actually. I think really a cool goal. Very ambitious goal, I
Very
think.
ambitious, yeah.
But I think, the sky's the limit, right? I mean, you've proven that you can grow very fast on Instagram. And I think you've also proven that there's a very big urge of kind of like, hey, we really need to change something. And I think a lot of people experience that.
Yeah.
But funny enough, of course, that is like viral online. Like this is like this paradox world that we are living in. But I think it's also the only way. Like, I mean, you also don't, as you said with the casino, like probably the smartest way to get someone off, like the addiction of playing and gambling is at the casino or online in an online casino. Yeah. So I think that's where you have to basically start educating people, because otherwise you will not reach them as well.
Yeah, and I do want to make a nuance, because I don't think we don't want to focus on the addiction part, right? I think a lot of people also do have a healthy relationship with their phones, but still think they use it too much. And we're also there for those people. And for myself, it's the same. I'm definitely not addicted, but I do want to live offline more. But yeah, it is definitely very ambitious. And sometimes we also have to remind ourselves that it just started, and we have to stay with both feet on the ground. We've only organized one event and more upcoming. But yeah, we dare to dream.
Super nice. And what are next steps for you personally? What are the dreams, plans? Like, I mean, of course, there's like the company and like the startup and everything. But like, what is for you personally? Like, what are the hopes and dreams?
Well, I just started working for a new company called the Welcome app. And there I told my manager that it's my goal to be the CEO of a startup scale-up with a social heart. And I feel like the offline club is kind of, would be a possibility to lead and to make better. And I think my next goal is to be able to be a full entrepreneur and live off of the earnings of my business. I think that would be great. And then in the future, when I'm a bit older, I hope to help others to become entrepreneurs and reach their potential, and especially in areas of the world where they maybe have not all the funds or the privilege of having been grown up in a country like the Netherlands. Yeah.
Super nice goals.
Yeah, thank you.
Not even, I think, that ambitious, but actually just very nice goals, I think.
Yeah.
And last but not least, before we leave off and do a small summary of like what we've talked about, when is the next event for the offline club?
So the next event is tomorrow, but that's sold out. And a lot of other events in March and April are also sold out already, which is great, of course. But we're posting more online while we're talking to cafes and everything. But we've got a big one coming up on the 22nd of May at night. It's on a Wednesday in the Westerkerk, which is, I think, maybe the biggest and most beautiful church in Amsterdam. So we're working together with the Westerkerk and the Kwekerij to put a really cool, huge special edition of the offline club there. And then we've got, of course, the offline retreats at Lees Weekend coming up from the 13th to 15th of March. Still one spot left. And then in May, June, September, November, and December. Yeah. And then hopefully a lot more events coming up.
Worldwide. Super cool.
Yeah, and we're expanding to Utrecht and Nijmegen also.
Okay, so for any Dutch listeners, you can check out Offline Club.
Instagram better.
Instagram app.
Yeah. So the offline_club. And then in our bio, we have the link to our website where you can book the event tickets. And on the Instagram, you can stay up to date.
Super interesting episode. I think we talked about your career, like as almost tennis professional, moving towards entrepreneurship, being super ambitious, super hustle culture in the US, and then more and more moving towards conscious entrepreneurship, being more conscious yourself, wanting to change something also for other people. And I think that really changed for you in also like in a conversation. I think was quite interesting to see how you went from your eyes being lit up of all those ideas that I had to, but actually I don't even want to be associated with a certain group of people and work for them and basically get rich off the back of them.
No,
but I actually want to have much more impact. And I think that's really cool to see. I think you're on a really cool journey.
Thanks.
Before we leave off, I always ask 3 questions. The first question is, what are you learning right now that you're not good at?
Well, I'm learning more about franchising and brand building and basically everything that the offline club is throwing at me right now. Finances. I think brand building I'm pretty good at, but like finances and maybe franchising are things that are completely new to me. And there's a lot of other things that don't know shit about and that I'm learning now. Yeah.
Super nice.
On the go.
How would you call this chapter of your life?
Exciting, promising, and also a bit overwhelming. In a good way.
And if you could send a SMS to all mobile phones in the world, what would you say? It's very suitable. I ask this every single time, but today is, I think, even more suitable.
I like that question. I would say, look up from your phone, start living the offline lifestyle. Yeah.
And join the offline club.
And join the offline club. Exactly. Okay. Look us up on Instagram, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. I want to give one more shout out, if I may, to my co-founders, Jordi van Bennekom and Valentijn Klok, and also to Café Brecht, who was the first cafe who we're partnered with and who gave us kind of this stage to expand. Yeah.
Perfect. We will link all the names and the locations in the show notes as well, so go check them out.
Yes.
And Ilya, thank you so much for joining the 301 podcast. It was an amazing conversation. If you like this episode, then don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to like, and don't forget to comment. It's very important for the algorithm. There are over 80% that are not subscribed yet. So the 20% that are subscribed, well done, keep it up. Suggest it to more people. But there are 80% that are watching right now that are not subscribed. So if you're not subscribed, like, subscribe, and comment. And we are back with a new episode in 2 weeks. Thank you so much, and take care.